Hello and welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews. Bit of a different change of scenery today from my car. We're going to do another year in rock and metal. I'm going to do 1993. So what I do is I just run through my favourites from that year. And I go from my least favourite to my favourite, but they're all, remember, these are all my top albums from that year. And do some honourable mentions at the end as well. So, and also you can subscribe to my channel. You can see the button there in the bottom right hand corner. Just subscribe to my videos if you like them. I've been doing plenty and I keep them coming if I get some more subscribers. So without further ado, 1993. Bit of a strange one, this one. For me, a really weak year in rock and metal. Obviously it won't be a weak year for everyone because everyone's got their different tastes, but as far as I'm concerned, 1993 was, since I've been doing this channel and looking at the releases from that year, the weakest year for, well, since I've done it. And I've only got five. I'm going to do the top five here, and some of them weren't my favourites from the bands either. But I suppose it's a bit of a, you do have the odd year where that happens. So without further ado, number five. So this is my least favourite of my favourites. Number five, Scorpions, Face the Heat. So this is, it ain't a bad album. For me, it was a bit of a little bit of return to form after Crazy Heat. Didn't like the album much. I think the production was poor. I thought Savage Amusement was good before that, and then it went downhill a bit, but this pulled it around a little bit, but not fully. Weren't one of my favourite Scorpions albums by far, but it wasn't that bad. Good opening track, Alien Nation, really rocking track to open with. A few others, Someone to Touch was a good song, but all in all, a little bit of an average album really by the Scorps. Maybe a little bit above average, but not fantastic. And I'd score Scorpions, Face the Heat, 7 out of 10. Well, next one, Winger, Paul. This weren't a bad album at all, this one. I did actually prefer the In the Heart of the Young a little bit more though. But it was pretty good. It was a bit experimental, some of it. But there was still some catchy tunes on it as well. Down Incognito is probably the most well-known one out of this. Spell I'm Under was good, In My Veins. It weren't a bad album at all, but still, it was a bit of a strange year for all these bands. They didn't really pull it out of the bag, without a doubt. They maybe have been experimenting a little bit because of the change in metal at the time. Some bands are pulling away from their usual sound. But I'll score Winger, Paul, 7 out of 10. Next one, Savatage, Edge of Thorns. Quite like this album. I thought, it was probably a difficult time for the band, change of singer. And Zach Stevens, I think it was, came in singing. I preferred the old singer, but he still did a pretty good job on this. Edge of Thorns is a brilliant song, love it. Damien is one of my favourites actually from Savatage, really good. He Carves His Stone was another good song. So this was pretty good, but there was a lot to live up to with the last couple of albums before that. So but obviously after this album, the guitarist died as well, 6 months after the release of this album. So yeah, it was difficult after as well. But Edge of Thorns ain't a bad album at all, quite strong. And I'd score Edge of Thorns 7 out of 10. Number 2, Metallica's Live Shit Binge and Purge. I still got this actually. I got the VHS cassettes with the CDs, and it came in like a road case, like a roadie's road case. Still got it. Loved it at the time. Obviously, I was really into Metallica after the last few albums. And this had some old stuff on it as well from the Justice tour, which was really good. But no, it was quite a good a good for a live album. I do prefer other live albums, but it was pretty good. It showcased everything they were like at the time, I suppose, old and new. And I'll give Metallica Live Shit Binge and Purge 8 out of 10. And this comes to my number one. This is Pearl Jam versus. This was really like, I loved the album when it first came out. Played it non-stop. Probably, you know, obviously with all the releases, like I said, it was a bit of a strange year. It came at the top of the releases for me. Obviously it's my number one, but at the time it was really strong for me. But as years have gone by, I've definitely like gone back to the debut more than this one. It had a bit of a more rawer sound, I suppose. I think the guitar work on the debut album was better, a bit more intricate. But it was still a good album. Of course, still quite strong, and obviously it was a massive, huge hit. I think it was Pearl Jam's biggest album. I remember at the time it really exploded, this one. But obviously it was the height of grunge as well around this time. But you got the opening track Go, which is really good. Dissident was an excellent, slower sort of song, acoustic-y sort of song. Rearview Mirror, I couldn't get enough of that when it first came out, this album. I thought that was really strong. And probably my favourite on the album, Indifference. Such a cool sound to that song. Completely different, and well, I don't know, it was different than anything they'd done, I suppose. I suppose Oceans was maybe the closest sort of thing to it on the previous album, but loved Indifference. Really, really good. But not quite as strong as the debut, but a good album though, pretty strong. And I'll give Pearl Jam versus 9 out of 10. So this is a bit of, you can see, I mean, obviously not everyone will love albums that came out in this year, and they'll probably disagree with me and say there was loads of good albums that came out, and you know, that's all to do with taste, in it. You know, this is my favourites, and it was a poor year really. And you can tell that because normally I can't choose 5. I have to go to 7 or 8, and the top 4 are 10 out of 10s, you know. Not even one of them made a 10 out of 10 on this particular year. But you know, it's just one of those things in rock, and it just happens. So I've got some honourable mentions, some good ones here that will probably make a lot of people's top 10s or even top album or overall. Life of Agony brought out a good album. River Runs Red, bit of a dark album. I suppose you could compare it a little bit to the sound of it, a little bit Alice in Chainsy, alternative if you like. You had Tool brought out Undertow, and as a debut album. I like a lot of the Tool stuff that came later. I wouldn't call myself a huge Tool fan. It's probably going to upset quite a few Tool fans, but you know, it's just a matter of fact. People say you love them or hate them, but I think they're all right. You know, I can listen to them, but I prefer a lot of other bands. But Undertow wasn't a bad album. Freak of Nature by Freak of Nature. This was the Mike Tramps. I nearly thought about putting this in my top 5. Mike Tramp, obviously the White Lion, split up, and this was his solo project. I really liked it at the time, but it hasn't stayed with me. It hasn't had a lasting effect, and I don't listen to it now. So that's why it didn't really go in my top 5. And a band called Svengali. I don't know if anyone remembers them. They brought out, I think, 2 albums overall. This was their debut. Pretty good at the time. Got right into it at the time, but a bit like Freak of Nature, it sort of quite quickly, I didn't play it. You know, played it for a while, really got into it, thought I'd love it, and then not so much. Clawfinger, Deaf Dumb Blind, rap band. I suppose, you know, trying to cash in, if you like, on what Rage Against the Machine were doing. It weren't a bad album. It's another one where I loved it at the time, but you know. Dio, Strange Highways as well. That came out that year. Not a real strong album from Dio. I think after Sacred Heart for me it started going a bit downhill. But you know, it's still a great voice, but not the albums. The songwriting wasn't quite there for me. Yeah, so that's it for 1993. So quite a short video as well because of the amount that I've chosen. But I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please, you know, I mean, you probably think there's a load of good releases. Just let me know what you think they are. Remember, I've never been into extreme metal, and extreme metal was really hitting big time at this time, so that's probably why my list is a bit short. But it was something I was never into, and I never am. I've tried, but I just can't get into the real extreme stuff. So yeah, please subscribe. Hit the button at the bottom. Let me know what you think. Comment on the video, please. It's great, and keep telling me about new bands because I'm loving it. Right, cheers. See you next time.